Hey, what's going on? It's Dr. Mike G. Nelson here, back with another episode of the podcast. And today we are talking with my good buddy Mario Mavrides about gyms reopening related to COVID, all the things that go into that, what he's done with his facility that he is overseeing to make sure they are ready, and just a general discussion of everything that kind of goes into that. This was recorded about 3 to 4 weeks ago, so that was the state of affairs at that point, since I know everything is changing on a daily basis. So if you're a gym owner, or if you're wondering about what questions you should be asking gyms as they reopen, then this will be a great episode for you. And as usual, this one is brought to you by the Flex Diet certification. For more information, go to flexdiet.com, FLEXDIET. If it is currently not open, which as of this recording, it is not, but you're able to get on the wait list there, join the newsletter. We'll send you some cool free information, and then you'll be one of the very first people to have the ability to enroll once it opens again. So go to flexdiet.com, FLEXDIET.com. Enjoy this conversation, my buddy Mario.
It brings us to our topic now for the day, which, you know, this whole disease, and we won't get into, I mean, unless you want to talk about what you really think of it, but I don't know if we're not epidemiologists, so maybe we shouldn't get into that. But I think there's a lot of concern, particularly from the business perspective.
Oh, definitely.
So on my end, I run a large community center. It's the largest, it happens to be an Italian-Canadian community center, and we're the largest one in the country. I've got a massive 15-acre campus. We've got pools and tennis courts and basketball courts and multiple indoor racket sports. We've got indoor tracks. We've got an indoor gym. I've got 4 dance studios, music studios, a banquet hall, art gallery, a library.
Wow.
We even have 3, on campus we have 2, one nursing home, like a medically assisted nursing home, and then we have 2 seniors living centers. So that to us in Ontario, Canada, where I am, particularly in Toronto, the nursing homes have been devastated.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely devastated, and we're no exception. We've lost a few people there, and we've had really stringent measures. Now, I'm not too involved in that because that's the medical staff specifically, but it is it's in my campus. But my focus and what I want to talk about today principally is what's happening with people coming back. Obviously, we're still under lockdown in Ontario. We have not opened. Gyms are not open at all.
Wow.
Yeah, nothing at all. There's been there's no discussion about gyms opening in Ontario. Now, across Canada, there has been in British Columbia, Saskatchewan, Prince Edward Island, Alberta. They've opened. Quebec, everything but Montreal, because Montreal is the epicenter in Canada. But in Toronto, nothing. Ontario, nothing. We have a very our premier, who runs our province, similar to the governors in your states, the analog there, he's very conservative and very health conscious, and he's taking a very, very slow approach. So gyms have received nothing. Now, you may be familiar with Good Life Fitness, which is the largest
definitely.
in
Big
Canada.
chain in Canada.
They're the largest in Canada and one of the largest in the world, something like 330, 40 clubs.
Wow.
It's owned by one individual. They recently posted opening dates. However, as of literally before this conversation, I got an email from an for the Fitness Industry Council of Canada, where we don't know where he came up with these dates. So we have no idea where it's coming from. We don't know. So Toronto, but that said, Toronto and my facility, if we go by those dates, July 29th opening. We've been shut down since March 16th of this year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so as you can imagine, and I'm sure many of your listeners who have facilities of their own, this has been a massive, massive problem and drop in revenue. Like we're still paying staff as much as we can. We're a charity, actually. We're a charitable organization, so we do get some funding from outside, from donations and whatnot, but it's not enough to maintain operations. So I've laid off 97 members of my staff. Which was very challenging, mostly part-timers, but enough that it's still difficult for everybody.
Sure.
Fortunately, our country is providing us some support every month by ways of a Canada Emergency Revenue Benefit, and so everybody's getting some money every month, which is useful. But it's still not. Everybody wants to work. That's what I'm getting at. So most recently, what we've been doing is we've created a lot of plans on how to open, what to open, how to do it. And there's some real challenges. Like for the last 6 weeks that I've been working on this, it's been just very hectic because we have no direction from provincial health authorities. So we don't really know. So everybody's just kind of guessing what they think the best practices are. And we put something in place. Like for example, if we look at the Alberta experience, the other province in Canada here, they put forth a document. The province came back with what they thought they needed, and back and forth. And because everybody has this perceptions that gyms are cesspools, right?
Yeah.
Of sweat and bacteria, they think, oh, we're going to leave it to the end in what we call the third phase, with the last phase of opening. And in Ontario, we're not even in the second phase yet officially. We're still officially at the end of the first phase. But in Alberta, the gyms there, through an organization that I work with called the Fitness Industry Council of Canada, we were able to move it from third to second phase. So they're open and running and have a very positive experience thus far. So we're looking to do the same. So concerns, have you been getting questions? Like, have you got anybody emailing you, like, what's happening? I know you don't run a facility per se, but have you got people asking you or pointing out some of the concerns? Because I've got a lot, and I'm wondering if they're similar. Like for us, it's been mostly cleanliness, disinfecting, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's usually like cleanliness, contagious risk. And in Minnesota, like some gyms just recently opened up, I think last Monday as this recording. And what was interesting is I still have a membership to one of the bigger unnamed chains, and like no notification, like nothing. Like I'm not saying they should personally call me or anything like that, but maybe some newsletter to members. Maybe they sent it. Maybe it got lost in my spam box. I don't know. But I was just looking at my credit card and I see a partial charge. So I'm like, oh, they must be open. I go to the website. I look. There's like, it just says open. It doesn't say anything on the website. That was a few days ago. Maybe it's changed. But just to me, it was almost more of a lack of communication that was kind of startling. And I don't know if it's just they're overwhelmed and they don't know what to do and don't have enough staff, or they're trying to get people back and they got bigger fish to fry, or what. But it was weird.
If it's who I think it is, the organization you're talking about, one of the larger chains, I think it's because they don't care.
Yeah, that's kind of the hard part too.
If it's who I think it is, which shall remain nameless, I actually have worked with them in the past, and they were not exactly known for they're not paragons of customer service and consideration. Let's put it that way. They just operate, and here's what it is, and you're going to take it and you're going to enjoy it, or you can, anyway, you can do that when you have, 12 million members, something to that effect. You can do that. And that's greater than the population of Ontario, by the way. So that's put in perspective. And that's exactly the thing. But I'm glad you brought up the communication piece, because that's been a really interesting kind of dynamic for us. The general consensus amongst most of these people is you got to communicate, be transparent. Yes. However, and there's a big fat but coming, I think sometimes communicating too much, particularly when it's too soon, can create more problems for you.
Yeah, get confusion.
It's confusion, exactly, particularly when you don't have those data, you don't have that information necessary to be conclusive, right? And here's what we're doing with conviction. And that's something I've been struggling with. One of the things that the challenges that I face is I have an executive, but I also have a board because we're a charity. And unfortunately, our board is made up of a bunch of volunteers, an inordinate amount of representation from retired teachers, and so as a result, who I shouldn't say they interfere. They don't interfere, but they all have very strong feelings and opinions on how business should be operated. But unfortunately, none of them ever run a gym before. So they keep asking for a lot of things that, from a business perspective, don't make a lot of sense. So we've got to balance that out. And the number one thing is communication. They want to have all the information as soon as it comes out. But we need time to parse it. We need time to understand it, recognize the impact it's going to have on our business operations, and then mete out that information appropriately and slowly enough so that it's not overwhelming and confusing. Because then, particularly with my membership, my facilities, we'll be celebrating its 40th year this year in operation.
Nice.
So yeah, we have a lot of my membership is approximately 60% of membership is over 60 years old. So we have a lot of boomers in there from that generation. And they don't take to change very well, unfortunately, or fortunately. They like things to be the same. So when I give information, they tend to hold me to it. So I'm being very careful. So that's one of the things, and I would suggest anybody who's listening who does operate an organization or a facility, particularly if it's a large facility, be careful what you say, because your members will hold you to it, and then you're backtracking, and then you're backpedaling, and you're looking shifty, and no one wants that. In times like this, you need to be very confident, you need to be very self-assured, you need to be able to deliver information in a measured and very with conviction, so that people feel trust. Because the moment they stop feeling trust in you, they're going to leave your business. They're going to go somewhere else. Like look what you're feeling with your organization. They didn't give you any meaningful information, and you're like, well, what the heck's going on, right?
Yeah.
So, and it doesn't engender trust or comfort in you as a member. Granted, you're probably paying a minimal amount a month for that, if it's, again, who I think it is, so that's probably why there's great value there. So you stick around for that, but for as much as you can. For us, we do have some premium services, so it's a little more challenging. And so our members demand a lot more, particularly because many of them, frankly, built the place. I hear that all the time. Well, I've been here for 40 years. I'm like, that's wonderful. That doesn't mean you get special treatment. It's very grateful, But yeah, I get that a lot. I would say 80% of my conversations start with my member telling me how long they've been loyal members for, and which is wonderful, but I don't care. It doesn't matter how I'm going to deal with you the same way. I'm going to treat you fairly and properly, right? I shouldn't say I don't care. It's not going to change the nature of the conversation. But there was a document created by Club Intel, a great resource for gym people, and it was a lot of other organizations like Life Fitness and Les Mills and them. They contributed to it, and it's a massive document. It's very sweeping, and it's not that different from some of the other manufacturers, but I just like the way they put it together. And they did a study talking about what they're looking for, what people are looking for from gyms when they go in. And there's a few really important things, and they've listed some of them, and we can talk about each one if we have the time here. But roughly 65% of members indicate they're very likely or fairly likely to return. This is amazing. This is amazing.
That's higher than I would have thought. Which is good.
Absolutely. Yeah. So our research up here, our research up in Canada that we've done at each local, at each province, is fairly consistent. We've seen as low as 45, as high as 75. So this kind of splits the difference, and it's fairly, I figure it's fairly consistent. That said, not everybody's ready to jump in immediately. So consistent with my facility, what we're doing is, well, since we stopped providing service and we shut doors in March, we have ceased all billing. So we're not doing any billing at all right now. So there's no revenue coming in for us. So what we're doing now is we've said to people, listen, when we open, and we just gave the first of a series of emails last week. When we open, we're going to give you the opportunity to stay on hold or membership freeze, no charge, for an additional 6 months. Okay. So the idea here is make people feel comfortable. They can see that we're doing the right thing. They can see that we're taking care of everything that needs to be done before they just come back in. They can build some confidence in us. So that's been helpful. Some surprising statistics: men are more likely to return than women, and more inclined to do it sooner when they do. Now, this is maybe an indictment on our recklessness as men. I don't know. But more than likely, it's just that in general for gyms, cleanliness tends to be more important to women than men.
You've been in most men's bathrooms in almost any gym chain, and you're just like, really? Like the guy who's 70 years old has to set his naked ball sack like on the sink. Like, really? I'm like, anyway.
So I gotta tell you this. Sorry, you just reminded me. You mentioned naked ball sack, and you cued a memory. Like, well done. So earlier this year, we finally finished the renovation, massive and very expensive renovation of what we call our men's health club, which is an executive change room for men. It has a lounge, has its own workout area, has sauna, spa, steam room, independent showers, vanities. Like, it's just beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. Lockers, everything. And so we opened it. Very first day of opening, I'm at the front. I'm there and welcoming members come in because we've been closed for 6 months in renovations. It was a debacle. The city wouldn't give us the permits. Anyway, so we finally got it done. Everybody's really happy to be there. Open the doors, let these guys in. Within the first hour of opening, there's a guy. He just right there, an older gentleman right there. He decided that day he was going to christen the entire locker room by shaving his testicles.
Oh, jeez.
That was how he chose to christen the locker room. He stood there in the middle of the wide open locker room with a clipper. He's just shaving himself down.
Oh.
Yep. Yep. These are my members. They're awesome.
Yeah. It doesn't entirely surprise me, I guess.
No. But going back to our point, yes, the men are more likely to return. This one's a little bit surprising. The boomers are more likely to return faster, while millennials and Gen Z tend to be more hesitant.
Oh, I wouldn't have guessed that either.
Yeah, you would think, particularly since the nature of this disease seems to be more effective of older people.
Yeah.
Although in Ontario, we just had a massive spike in infections under 20 just this last week.
Huh.
Yeah, it's a weird disease, man. The epidemiology is so strange.
Yeah, and you see little pockets and all sorts of stuff.
It's so bizarre. Any event, so that's a little surprising. But then again, that goes back to the communication piece, that we do know that typically millennials and Gen Zs, they tend to want more information rather than less. And they're used to having so much information at their hands that might be a question of communication rather than anything else. And of course, the decision to return is highly dependent on both facility practices and local policy. Yes, that should go without saying. What people want to see is, are you disinfecting equipment after each use? Is there hand sanitizing station around? Are there limits to be enforced? Is manager being transparent in communication, like we talked about? And how are these policies going to be enforced? So, for example, in our facility, as many others, we're following a similar guideline across Canada now through the FIC, the Fitness Industry Council of Canada. And we're doing timed workouts. So you have to register a time. It's 55-minute workout. Well, it's an hour, but 5 minutes to come in and go out. We've we've changed the path. So our front door is no longer a front door. Now we're using a side door to go out in and out of. We're trying to limit people congregating. Because remember, I have a large community center. The gym is a part. So I'm trying to limit congregation. We have spray bottles and disinfecting stations at every piece of equipment, on every single one. each of my pieces of equipment has a sign that says that it's what we call the one touch. So it has a red and a green side to the sign. The red side, obviously, the green side will say, this piece has been sanitized and ready for use. Once you use it, you flip the sign over to red, and it said, this requires sanitation. However, we still ask each member to clean the equipment they use themselves, to the point where we actually have another sign, yet another one, of a photo of the actual piece of equipment with arrows pointing, wipe here, clean here, disinfect here. So we're trying to, keep it simple, stupid, as trying to make it as idiot-proof as possible. But you know what that means? That someone's going to find a way to beat it, of course, right? There's always a better idiot.
Always somebody.
Always somebody. So we have that, and then once that member leaves, I think we just upped it to 4 permanent cleaning staff in my gym itself, in the actual fitness facility itself, a 10,000 square foot area, circulating, wiping down everything constantly. And then of course we're also limited the use. There's no change rooms, there's no showers, no spas, no hot tubs, no steam rooms, just bathrooms, just washroom facilities. And then we just kick everybody out after the hour, and the next group comes in. So it's and then group exercise, the same thing. We're doing the 8 by 8 foot area, 64 square feet, not the 36, because I know there was some research done up here in McMaster University in Hamilton up here.
Oh, okay.
They were saying that 10 feet is a minimum because of the projection of droplets. But honestly, at giving everybody 100 square feet, you'd have 10 people, 12 people in the gym.
Yes. I don't think people realize how far apart people are compared to what they normally would be.
Normally do, exactly. So to that end as well, I've spaced out all the equipment. I removed about 2/3 of my cardio equipment, which I figure you'd be a fan of. I know I am. Damn treadmills. Did all that, and then spaced out all the strength equipment as well. So no one is any less than 8 to 8.5 feet from each other at all, anywhere you go, any piece of equipment you use. So it's been a challenge. We've got it done. But man, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work for that.
And so you are technically open, or you're kind of partially open, or you're just doing all this in preparation for when they give you the green light to say, okay, you're good to go now, and you're ready to go on day one.
That's exactly it. That's exactly. We've adopted the strategy. So in Ontario, our premier usually makes announcements Monday as to what's opening on Friday. So we try to prepare as if every Friday we're opening. So which is challenging because we know we're not. In fact, Ontario is still under a state of emergency until the end of the month. So there's no changes. So yeah, it's a little bit of overkill, to be honest with you, but it's a good practice. I can't really fault it. It's a good practice. Member usage prior to closure is a powerful predictor of likelihood of return. Again, a bit of a no-brainer. I have my membership is very loyal, but this is actually quite interesting. You get a kick out of this. So I have a membership base, like I said, mostly over 60%. 60% is mostly over the age of 60, of which almost all of them, something like an 89% overwhelming majority, use the facility 4 to 5 times a week minimum. Okay, so they're heavy users. However, and this is a bit of a criticism of my facility and most facilities of my tenure. The facilities have been open this long. They don't really do fitness. Does that make sense?
I think so. It's probably more a community aspect, I would imagine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So they come, they play. I mean, they play squash, they play tennis, and these are great. But it's not, for most of my members, the idea is to come sit on the treadmill or the elliptical for an hour whilst talking to your buddies who are all around you, to the point where they will often move the equipment to face each other, so when they're on. Yeah. So there's a whole other challenge. 26 years in the business, I've worked at dozens of facilities across the country and even in the US. And I can tell you, I've never had these challenges before. It keeps me on my toes. Um, so, but and which is why a lot of them won't be coming back as much as they're heavy users. So it's contrary to this point from Life Fitness here, or from this document here, because the fact of the matter is they're not doing it for fitness. They're doing it for socializing, and the exercise component is a very distant secondary benefit. Um, Whereas the people that actually work out, that come, and I mean, they train with the weights, they do the strength training, they try to make changes as opposed to just walking on a treadmill for however long, feeling that's the source of their exercise. Um, they're not likely to return, because what's important for them is the sauna, the steam room, the lounge. So it's a little different. Like I said, my membership is a little bit different because of the vintage, shall we say,
Sure.
of the organization. But my younger base, which I've been trying to build, and these are I'm talking people under the age of 50 and 40, frankly. They're more likely to return because they can't do the kind of workouts that you can at a gym at home for the most part. I mean, bands are great, but you got to get in there, and nothing like picking up some weight off the ground. It's very visceral, as I'm sure you can appreciate.
Yeah, it's been weird. The main reason I go to the gym is just to use some I think Jeff called it 21st century gravity and
Yeah.
dumbbells. I
Yes.
still like dumbbells for like just rows and bench
Sure.
press and stuff like that, and it's the only reason I really use it, and sauna and other stuff like that. But yeah, it's different, not bad, just different, right? And I think
Uh,
variety is good.
I agree. I absolutely, and you've always preached that from the beginning, and I've always kind of ascribed to that as well. On that note, what are your thoughts of Techno Gym? I've got some pretty. I find them pretty interesting. I like their mechanics, but
There,
what?
some of their equipment I use, like I stayed at a fancy hotel in Dallas when I was doing a presentation down there last year, and it was great. Like I'd never heard of the hotel. I told the organizers, I'm like, I've got a very limited time. I've got stuff going on. Is it okay if I stay at the hotel? Because I can run up to my room, get some stuff down, run back. Because I said I don't want to be one of those people that's being paid to be there and not part of the
Yeah.
seminars and stuff. They're like, yeah, man, that's totally cool, and they're awesome with it. I didn't realize it was like this super ultra fancy hotel where like you go into the gym itself. There's a guy who meets you, who like says, "Hey, oh, if you didn't bring any gym clothes, that's cool. We got clothes here you can
Oh
wear.
my
Here's like
goodness.
your sandals. Here's the sauna." They had a cold plunge, and
Oh my gosh.
the equipment was all techno gym equipment,
Yeah.
like all brand new within the last year, and
Wow.
like some of the equipment I was like, wow, this is actually really cool. And then
Yes.
some of it I was just like, what the hell did they do to this thing? Like the rower, I was like,
Yeah.
what bastardized form is this? It was
Yeah.
like, so some of it was just weird.
I think it's like any company, in the interest of innovation, you tend to do things. You stray so far from what works that you end up, like you said, bastardizing, creating some chimera of mechanics that I don't know what kind of body they're using
Yeah.
here. But there's stuff like I have a few pieces of technology. Again, it's an Italian company, so
Yeah.
therefore, like you said, they're going to want to support it. They I have a few pieces there, and for the most part, I really enjoy it. When I was working out in yet another province, Saskatchewan, a couple of years ago, and they had exclusive techno gym,
Hmm.
multiple facilities, all exclusively done with techno gym. And I can tell you, man, I really, really enjoyed their mechanics. Their convergent paths on a lot of their unilateral machines, I found were just like, for me, just perfect. I guess they built them for people, but most machines are built people between the height about 5'8" to 5'11", around there.
Yeah.
I think these ones were a little bit taller, which is odd because Italians tend to be shorter. But anyway,
Yeah.
it went a little taller, and I just found I'm 6'2", and I found it was really just perfect for me. And even like the detail they put into the grips, like they make the
Yes.
grips ergonomic. I just found that so thoughtful, so thoughtful.
Yeah. They had a couple
Yeah,
of cable machines I used and a couple other ones that were actually really good, but I'm sure it's similar to you. Like you have like I was at a teaching in Sweden last year, And the guy who ran the gym there was awesome, and he had actually collected different types of equipment. And I'm always interested on the old school. They had a seated row, but they had it at an incline, like almost a 30-degree incline.
Yeah,
and you look at it and you're like, what? And I was asking him about it. He's like, oh yeah, it took me like 4 years to find this piece of equipment. I think it was an Atlantis piece of equipment, and you try it and you're like, wow, that's actually really cool.
Really?
You know?
Sorry, were you leaning into the machine or leaning back to the machine?
You were leaning back, so you had to put your feet up, and then so you were at like a weird decline just to do like a cable row.
And your feet were up high.
Yeah, your feet were high. Yeah,
that's that Atlantis system. It's on a multi-station, right? Like
it can be. Yeah, there's a single unit, and there's also one that comes off a multi-station. But yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, I found that really. I mean, you change the angle, right? So you're able to. What forced you to do is to keep your shoulders as you extend your shoulders back. You're able to get more range relative to your torso, right? So yeah, I found that was really, really, really. Atlantis is, if I'm not mistaken, they're from Montreal, up here in Canada.
Yeah.
So they some interesting pieces. Yeah, some great pieces.
So there's some weird stuff where you're like, oh, this is cool. Or you travel and you go to a gym and you see the weird piece of equipment, and sometimes you try it and you're like, this is horrible. And other times you're like, wow, this is so cool.
Who made this? What kind of human being did you model this after? How many limbs does this person have? I hear you.
And the stuff with the arms where you go to put your arm overhead and it's like the old hammer string stuff, which I like.
Yes.
But was it the angled pull down where it's like a chest supported row but up high?
Yeah.
Like whoever modeled that thing, like I have to put my hands like all the way up on top of the beams with the on the lowest setting, and then you do that and it's actually pretty good. But
yeah. I'm not exactly. I used it yesterday. I ended up just grabbing I don't bother the handles. I just grab the arm.
Yep, exactly.
The square bar. You know what I'm talking about, the box.
Yeah.
I grabbed that, put it down.
Yep.
Because you're 6'3".
6'3", yeah.
6'3", yeah.
Same idea, yeah.
I remember you being a little taller, and that's you have to, and then you have to move your body around. Anyway, this is another podcast we should have.
Yeah, it's a whole separate podcast. But yeah, sometimes equipment people get it right, and sometimes they don't. And I always hate to judge it by my frame either, because I know they're not designed for probably 6'3" people either.
Yes.
So
yes, no, you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. But just getting back to what we were talking about, because I can go on about machine design and stuff all day.
Yeah, no worries. We got about 10 minutes, so you're good.
All right, perfect. So the top 10. The metric, how likely to remain a member prior to closure, is the most influential metric in predicting who is very likely to return. Again, a bit of a no-brainer. It says here 82% of those who reported they were likely to remain a member pre-closure indicated they would very likely return at reopening. Again, a little different in my personal experience with my current facility, but from what I'm hearing from colleagues, that's fairly consistent with their facility. The member experience prior to closure was a significantly more powerful predictor of return compared to the experience members had during closure. This one's a little, I guess I understand this one by virtue of, if you weren't happy with the facility before it closed.
Yeah.
Then I guess you're not going to be happy.
Yeah.
But I heard of some facilities continuing to bill through the closure, which again, as a business perspective, I understand, because we're fortunate enough that we own the whole facility and we own the land, so we're not paying rent. It's been paid for a long time ago. But I do know a lot of facilities are shutting down. Gold's Gym, 24-hour fitness
just filed bankruptcy.
Yep. We expect in Canada, the number was approximately 60% of independents would shut down if this went into July. Wow. And it looks like it's into July. So, yeah, I suspect there's going to be some real, and even after we open, because right now we have an issue where after we open, we have to recall all of our staff before September. Or I can't remember exact date. I think it's 6 weeks from now, because of the length of time they've been laid off. We effectively, if we go into that time, then we have to fire everybody. Right now,
wow.
So they're going to either permanent layoff or firing, which means we now have to pay everybody out
Yeah.
severances, which obviously when you've had no revenue for 6 months
Yeah.
or 4 or 5 months going into that, that's very difficult. So there's going to be the lawmakers right now up here are having some real challenges so that we don't completely tank our economy anymore. So that's a concern. But that's because we're Canadian. We care about our people, unlike you Americans. Just a joke. Love you guys.
No, it's definitely different. It's a whole another 3-hour podcast.
Yeah. So fitness studios face a greater challenge in health fitness clubs with respect to drawing members and clients back. Yes, that's been our experience up here as well. Because the smaller studios, like I really feel, I consult with some F45s and Orange Theories up here, and they have to completely change their model.
Oh, definitely, because they pack people in very close.
Yes, very close.
Yeah.
So they're going to drop to like they have like in 900 square feet, their model allows you to have up to 32 people.
Woo! Wow.
Plus two trainers. So technically 34 people in 900 square feet. So there's no way they're going to maintain that ratio.
No.
So it's going to be tough for them. I know that F45 corporate's been very good and very understanding for the most part. I know Orange Theory's been doing their best to help their people as well. But man, it's a total redesign of their business model, and I do not envy them.
Oh, that's hard because by virtue of the regulations and the model you're running, you're really limited on what you can do.
Yes. And it's not just a space. Think about it. The whole idea is that it's a circuit, right? Like
exactly.
You're going from station to station. So yeah, it's one of my colleagues yesterday showed me, you probably have seen it circulating, that photo of the people in the gym where they're in their own little bubble.
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah.
I mean, it's a little bit much, but that's kind of the idea, right?
Yeah.
That's the idea has to happen here. Yeah, but that's definitely something we can. I'm looking forward to seeing how they're going to handle it, and I can see their challenges. And then finally, a small minority see no barrier to returning. So it's about 5%. That's what they're saying.
Pretty small.
That's pretty small. That I understand. These are the people who, probably between the ages of 25 and 35, maybe 45, who fitness has been part of their life for, a decade or more, and they just want to get back to the gym and work out. They just want to pick up a weight. And I suspect that. Here's something. Let me ask you your opinion. How do you feel, and what's your thought on the wearing of masks during exercise? Have you tried it?
I tried it just to see what it's like. I mean, obviously, I have luxury. I just train in my garage here and outside, which is great. But I don't know. I mean, I've heard from clients who told me outright that if I have to wear a mask, I'm not going back to the gym.
Yeah.
And yeah, when you start sweating, it's not fun. It does not feel good. I don't know on the effectiveness per se. I mean, in theory, if you're spread out far enough and everything else is disinfected, my guess, and don't anyone hold me on this, is that you're probably okay, but I don't know. And it's like, then what level of mask are you looking at? Not everyone's going to have an N95. It could be just a homemade mask or who knows what. And then that gets into a whole nother can of worms too.
Up here, what they've said and what we have said across Canada has been just a basic cloth mask covering. I know some of the provinces have made it mandatory, some have not. I think Alberta made it mandatory. I could be wrong on that. And I'm pretty sure BC did not. But then again, BC is a little different. It wasn't a provincial mandate to shut down. It was just regional. But we're thinking that we're going to make all staff wear masks.
Yeah.
And just to try it out yesterday, I put on an N95 and I just walked around with that, just walking around and going up and down stairs. Like, ooh, this isn't fun.
Yeah, the N95s are very restrictive. My sister is a nurse anesthetist, and so she was saying even in just procedures, once they finally got one, which is a whole other issue, She's like, it gets super warm, and she only
Yes.
had one, so she had to put another mask over the N95 to try to protect the N95.
Oh,
And then she
jeez.
said she's just in the back, just sitting there, sweating. And
Yeah.
if you're not used to having something like that, over your face, and you're sweating and you're in a high stress environment, people
Yes.
start hyperventilating and all sorts of stuff. So, yeah.
It, it's definitely problematic. My partner is a hygienist, a dental hygienist, and they're having, man, talk about a bit of a messed up situation. Up here, we've got the dentist organization, their college saying one thing, and they have the dental hygienist saying another thing,
Oh,
and they're arguing with each other, and the poor hygienists are stuck in the middle because they're employed by the
yeah,
dentists,
yeah.
but they're certified by their college.
Oh,
So it's really, really tough. But yeah, same thing. So she's got to wear, they've got to wear a hairpiece,
yep.
goggles, a mask, a 95 mask, or a KN95 mask, then a face shield, then a
Oof.
gown on top of their uniform, and then gloves. It's wow, yeah, it's really crazy. So anyway, but getting back to us, I'm thinking that we are going to just make staff wear it. But again, it's almost pointless then, isn't it? Because if it's either all or nothing,
Yeah.
right, you're going to do it. So I'm still not 100%. I think I'm just going to wait for it to see what the province says. And I'll just tell people, if you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. But up here, they're, in Canada, in Toronto, we've been given the recommendation when you go outside to wear a cloth mask.
Yeah.
It's not a mandate. It's not legislated, but just wear a cloth mask of some kind. And I get it. Some of the stores are forcing it, but like I said, I tried it. It's miserable. Oh,
Yeah, I mean, I've worn it when I went out here. Like, just the other day, I went to get gas at the gas station, and I had to go inside to pay for propane refill. And it was just weird because, like, the big things they had set up, the cashiers,
yeah,
one was wearing a mask, one wasn't. They had the thing where you're supposed to do all your stuff through to keep the distance, and he's just
yeah,
like working around it. Like, no one's paying any attention to the distance between people. It was just like nothing was. I was the only one wearing a mask and gloves. Everyone's
really,
like staring at you. But then, oddly enough, I go across the street to the drugstore, and then everyone was wearing masks. Everyone had gloves. No one looked at you weird, and they're like
really.
literally like across the street from each other. So it was just like, and the guy in
Strange.
front of me is giving me a lecture about how he bought 4 packs of cigarettes, 4 energy drinks, and 2 packs of Tylenol. And then he's giving me a lecture about how this isn't normal for him and this is going to last him several weeks. And I'm just kind of staring at him like, I don't care. Like,
Yeah,
whatever
man.
you want to do, man, you do you,
Maybe he knew you did a paper on energy drinks for the
Yeah.
for.
Yeah. And he, doesn't have a mask or anything on, which, whatever,
Yeah,
fine, but it was a very odd scenario to have those two kind of diametrically opposed from each
yes,
other. And then even weirder, you go across the street to the coffee shop, and then everybody there, very obedient. Like, all the staff had full masks, full
yeah.
gloves. Like, everything was, yeah. So it's very odd.
The food industry has been they were hit obviously really hard with
Oh
this.
yeah.
But I know, there's a Chipotle nearby me here,
Yep.
and I can tell you, if they're all wearing masks, they're all in. Of course, they're wearing the mask down here, underneath,
Yeah,
so it
yeah.
doesn't cover their nose. Like, come on, guys! Like, if you're gonna wear it, wear it. If not, don't bother. But man, I gotta tell you, that place is packed, like lineups. But respecting their distances, right? We're Canadian. Everybody's very polite and respectful of the rules.
Yes.
We don't have the same fear of civil liberties or concern with civil liberties that a lot of our American cousins do, for better or for worse. Any event, but everybody just kind of does their thing, and I've never had a concern about wearing a mask or not wearing a mask. No one's ever said to me, "Oh, you should be wearing a mask." No one's ever tried to justify their smoking to me. Although apparently smoking seems to protect you from this thing. Did you hear
Really?
that? Yeah, there was lots of studies saying that apparently those who smoke are less likely to contract the virus. Not necessarily,
Hmm.
it doesn't help you per se when you have it from symptoms, but from actually contracting it and being
Huh.
infected. Yeah, I
Interesting.
can't remember where I read that. It was somewhere. But at
Huh.
least in North America, the European strain not so much, which is why Italy, where almost everybody smokes, got nailed.
Yeah.
But not so. But here in North America, where they suspect it's a different strain now, a different mutation of it,
Hmm.
the smoking seems to protect you from it. So,
Interesting.
so I smoke cigars, so that's just what I do. That's my justification.
There you go. There you go. Keeping it away.
I'm keeping the virus at bay.
Right.
And there you have it,
Cool.
buddy. So that's a bit all I have to say there on this particular thing. Other than, I think that from a perspective of running a facility like this, you got to look at your members, and you have to take care. The way I've always said, I run the place as if my mother was going to be there. My 70-year-old mother was going to come and use a facility, she's infirm, she's had MS and cancer and all that stuff, and she's still kicking. But that's how I kind of base it at. This is how, and I always tell my trainers, train your clients as if you're training my mother or your mother, and so that's again another discussion. But so I'm making these precautions because I know I have the responsibility of a lot of older folks who are in the demographic, the highly infected, highly risky demographic. Oh, sorry, that's what I forgot. We also have implemented hours for at-risk people. So people who have pre-existing medical conditions or who are 60. I think we said 60 or older can come in and just be with similar cohort just for a few hours a day. I think we're doing 3 hours a day. And it seems to make people feel more comfortable. And I think that's the key. Make people feel comfortable, make people feel confident, show them you have a plan, show them you care and you're actually concerned about their well-being. And I think people will come back. They have to. I keep saying this is only temporary. I think we're on the verge of some kind of a vaccine soon. I want to believe that. But yeah, it can't be like this forever. I really don't. I didn't talk about the online and digital offerings because I think that's a much more involved discussion. I want to talk to the physical stuff now. That's a whole other discussion. But again, I'm happy to talk about that another time, and we have a little more time to get into that because I think that's another important piece for people because that's potentially changing the landscape of our entire business. I mean, you've been doing it forever, but it's new. So
I definitely agree with that. My 10 seconds on that is I think that most gyms and facilities, if they don't have some type of online-ish offering or something that their members are doing when they're not there, especially if they're really paying to get a result. And obviously a lot of people go for community and other reasons, which are super, super important. But I think you're going to see everybody has to have some type of hybrid model. And I think that'll just be sort of the new normal when you go in, or at least you'll have the option as a consumer to have part of that. I think if you're a gym, you have to think really serious about what you're going to do in that space, which is a whole nother discussion. Yeah,
I totally 100% agree. Things have changed. Things will continue to change. That's the nature of the business. But what doesn't change is what you just said, results.
Yeah.
We have to assume, and I always tell this to everybody I consult with, people come to the gym with the presupposition they're there to accomplish something. And it's our job as fitness professionals to help them do that. Give them the tools they need to be successful in that endeavor. And that's how we find success as fitness pros. Definitely.
Awesome. Right. And where can people find out more from you if they want to find you or you want to be found?
Well, it's funny. I really do. I am on Instagram. My name, Mario Mavrides. I believe that's what it is.
Okay.
Feel free to message me there. I'm on Facebook as well under Mario Mavrides. My facility that I'm at now is the Columbus Center Athletic Club. We are under villacharities.ca. That's the name of our charitable organization, a large group. So it's villacharities.ca. That's VILLA charities.ca. My mistake. Oh my gosh, villacharities.com.
Oh, okay. .com.
My mistake. .com, everybody. villacharities.com. .com. And then you can find us there and you can send messages and whatnot. But me directly, find me on Facebook or Instagram under my name. And I'm happy to communicate with whomever. I am a rare individual in that I've been using Instagram now for I think almost 6 years. I have not one single post.
Oh,
that's
wow.
that's my claim to fame. Not one.
Oh, why start now? You're probably
Yeah,
good. Probably
exactly.
better off.
But I'm happy to communicate on Instagram or Facebook. I don't do the Twitter thing, so that's the best way to get hold of me. All
No,
right.
Twitter's a trash bin fire anyway. I haven't been on there in 2 years, so.
Yes, yes, yes. All right, buddy. It's great to
Cool.
see you again. Great to see you.
Yeah, thank you so
Yeah,
much for doing this. I gotta head out, but I appreciate you coming on and sharing all your knowledge and being so kind with your first experience of this and what you've been doing. And
yes.
it's always good to have people on here who have experience and are actually, doing it too, which makes a big difference because you're forced to think about stuff other people who are just kind of going, you should do this or that. It's like,
Yeah.
no, when you're
Yeah.
the man in charge of it, like you gotta make sure you think of everything. So I appreciate
You
that.
definitely do. Definitely do. All right. Again,
Cool.
all the best. Thank you. And
Yeah.
my best regards to Jody as well. Stay safe. Okay. And hope we can stay in contact and do this again.
Yes, we'll do. Thank you so much.
Okay,
We'll
buddy.
see
All
ya.
the best.
Bye
Take
bye.
care. Bye bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Flex Diet Podcast. Greatly appreciate it. Hopefully you enjoyed our chat there with Mario. And as if you were listening on the interwebs through whatever player you like, or if you were to see the video on YouTube, you will notice that this was filmed before, probably about 4 weeks ago, before this release date. So it just gives you some time course for it. It's also why I had a hat on, because my hair was crazy. I hadn't had a cut since January. But this is brought to you by the Flex Diet certification. Go to flexdiet.com to get on the wait list to find out more information. If you want interventions for nutrition and recovery, if you're an advanced trainer and you want to help your clients, and of course, make more money in the process, you can do this entirely online, which is great. So go to flexdiet.com, FLEXDIET.com. Talk to you again soon. Thank you so much.